Good morning. It is currently 8:27 and it's Friday, which is awesome. I am going to be talking about topic 3, modeling and writing quadratic functions. So topic 3 is all about the application of quadratic functions and how you would see it being played out in the real world. The first objective within this topic is if I'm given points on a quadratic function, can I use these points to write a quadratic equation? So that's the first objective. If given 3 points, can you write a quadratic equation from it? And all of this is going to be done in the calculator. So I'm going to be going back and forth between this calculator and my notes here. Both these objectives, objective 1 and then objective 2, will be done on the calculator. So it's the very similar steps taken to follow on the calculator, and honestly the hardest part about these objectives in this topic is just remembering the steps of the calculator in order to do the math that is necessary. I put the steps here in red as best I could, and I'm going to be typing throughout this video. Now it does say, so the directions say use the information provided to write the standard form equation of each parabola. So what the goal here is to get a y equals ax squared plus bx plus c function in standard form. Alright, and so that's what our calculator is going to give us. Now the first step I said in red, if I'm given number 1, it opens up or down and passes through. So I will be able to tell once I find the equation, I will know if it opens up or down, because if it's positive or negative, and that'll tell me if it has a maximum or a minimum as well. And we'll be able to see that on the calculator. But if I'm given this 3 points, 3, 3, 7, -5, and 6, 0, the first step is to identify the x values and the y values. X values in coordinate points are always listed first. So our x values are 3, 7, and 6, and then the y values are 3, -5, and 0. That is the first step done. I have done that. Now we're going to go into our calculator. This step 2 says to hit the stat button. I got to turn this guy on. Hit the stat button and then go over to edit, which is already on edit, sorry. So hit enter on edit. It's going to bring up lists in L1 and L2 and in L3. We're going to input the x's into L1 and the y's into L2. So into my L1 I put 3, 7, and 6. And into my L2, I'm going to put 3, -5, and 0. What is wrong with you? Second mode always goes back to the home screen. If I hit stat again and then edit, it didn't like the way I put negative. Fine. -5 and 0. There. Alright, my list is done. Now, the third and final step, this is a very easy objective, is to hit stat calc, and then we're going to do what's called a quadratic regression. We're going to find a regression line which is called a line of best fit, meaning that there should be a line that hits all 3 of these plotted points, and that will be the best fit line if it does that indeed. And so I'm going to hit stat one more time, go over to calculate this time, and then down to number 5. So you can either press the number 5 button or move down, it doesn't matter, and hit enter. So it's going to run a quadratic regression, meaning it's going to find the line of best fit through these 3 points. So in this case, if you see, it says y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. My a is -1, my b is 8, and my c is -12. So my answer here, if I write it out, I want to make the font a little smaller, is y equals -1, so I can just put -x. I don't have to put 1 whenever it's a 1. -x squared plus 8x minus 12. And that is my final answer. I have found the quadratic equation if I'm given 3 points that the quadratic equation hits. If you want to, you can go ahead and check to make sure that if I plug this into y equals -x squared plus 8x minus 12 and hit graph, I can bring up a table option by hitting second graph. It brings up the table, the blue above that. And let's see, at x equals 3, y equals 3, good. At x equals 7, y equals -5. And at x equals 6, y equals 0. So we indeed found the line of best fit. This is the quadratic equation as a parabola. I'm going to have you pause and try the you-do problem on your own. Before you go ahead and do that, though, I got from, let's see where I was at. I was at this table, right? I hit stat again, and then I went to edit, hit enter, and if you see, the lists are still filled with what I just put in there. If you go up to L1 and hit clear and enter, it'll clear out all the lists, and sometimes that's useful because you're probably going to put like 15 numbers in the next objective. So if I go over to L2 and then up to L2 and hit clear and then enter, it gives me a clean slate in my calculator. Now, please pause the video and try this process on your own to check your understanding. At this point, you should have paused the video and tried this problem on your own. The first step, I identified the x's and the y's from my coordinate points to give me the 3 points. Then I hit stat edit and put the x's into L1, the y's into L2, so that's what I did over here. L1 and L2. And then I hit, after I was done inputting, I put stat calc and then quad regression. So stat over to calc and then the 5th option. Hit enter on quadratic regression and it gives me my equation. So my final answer is y equals x squared minus 14x plus 51. And probably the only confusion that would exist here is they're giving you the coefficients that replace the a, the b, and the c. If you notice, a is 1, that's why I didn't put a number in front of the x squared down here. B is -14, which I replaced down here as well, and then c is 51. So if this is what you got, hopefully your work looks pretty similar to mine and you got the same equation I did, then you are free to move on to the practice. I just have you do 4 problems just really to get the hang of plugging it into the calculator. So mastery is 4 out of 4. It shouldn't take you that long because down here we're actually going to get into a lot more or like bigger numbers, random numbers, and more numbers. So it's the skill of putting things into the calculator is very necessary for objective 2.